So when do Russian and Chinese hybrid slash gray zone attacks become acts of war? Before we get into that, gray zone or hybrid warfare is the space between peace and war where states use covert, deniable, or non-military tools such as cyber attacks, sabotage, disinformation campaigns, and infrastructure disruption to weaken adversaries without crossing the clear threshold of armed conflict. In today's gray zone tactics, that really means we have to hinge on effects, not so much the tools. So if sabotage or a cyber operation causes deaths, serious injuries, or large scale physical destruction, or perhaps even service outages comparable to a bomb, it can qualify as an armed attack and justify self-defense. NATO has affirmed that a severe cyber attack could trigger collective defense under Article 5, although it would be decided on a case-by-case basis. There are 4 tests that guide whether military force is appropriate. First, the effects. Does it cause fatalities, major physical damage, or crippling disruption to critical functions like energy, telecommunication, healthcare, finance, or air safety? Second, is it attributable? Is it a state that is responsible, including their proxies? Third, accumulation. This means that if there's a series of below threshold acts, it may add up to an armed attack when combined and the harm matches kinetic force. And then fourth, there is the classic self-defense constraints of necessity and proportionality. We can't nuke a country because they conducted a small cyber attack. Now, Russia is pushing the threshold through sabotage, arson, and electronic warfare tied to its various intelligence services and its proxies. In just the last couple of days, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's aircraft lost GPS reception near Bulgaria, and the Bulgarian authorities blamed Russia for it. Aviation authorities report a surge in GPS disruptions around Russia and have issued mitigation plans, but have also warned that a fatal crash with clear attribution would cross into armed attack territory. This also applies to undersea infrastructure after Baltic cable damage was discovered. NATO warned that any deliberate attack on Allied critical infrastructure would face a united response. So if a coordinated seabed attack blacked out a region, it would justify self-defense with force. Now, China's approach leans more so on pre-positioning its access and critical infrastructure, as we saw in the Volt Typhoon disclosures about utilities, telecoms, transport, and water systems. But if Russia were to activate those and cause blackouts, hospital outages, or transport accidents, the effects with the attribution to China could mean that they've met the threshold for a counterattack. In practice, force becomes appropriate in 3 separate clusters. First, a single catastrophic event. For example, a hospital cyber attack causes death, or there's an air crash tied to jamming. Second is a coordinated singular strike that may not cause deaths, but could cause widespread outages in critical infrastructure. And then third is those cumulative hybrid campaigns whose combined harm reaches the armed attack bar. Now, even in those cases, NATO's first move may not be kinetic, but in the end, the line is certainly crossed when hybrid tactics stop being a nuisance or test of will and instead cause death, crippling destruction, or sustained disruption to essential systems, at which point NATO and its partners are justified and have reserved the right to treat them as acts of war and respond with military force.